I'm Troy Reynolds.
And I'm Trisha Cave.
You're about to go on the educational record.
Welcome to the Educational Record, a YouTube series where we grill candidates for Texas state offices about their positions on key educational issues so that you can make an informed choice when you vote.
As you make that informed choice, we hope you'll join us in the block vote. If you don't know what that is, stick around. We'll talk about the block vote at the end of this video. Meanwhile, we would like to welcome today's guest, Julie Gobble, candidate for House District 6. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. These conversations are important. We thank you for agreeing to come in and talk with us about educational issues and Texas politics. Why don't we start off, let our viewers know a little bit about who you are.
Okay, so my name is Julie Gobble. I am a first-time candidate. I'm here in Smith County, which is to the east of Dallas. I am challenging an 8-year incumbent for the Texas House of Representatives. And yeah, I'm 25 years old, still a full-time student myself. I have an 11-year-old stepdaughter who is a public school student as well, and my husband is a small business owner. So we are running to bring some better representation to Texas.
Can you give us a little overview of your philosophy on public education, Julie?
Yeah, of course. So being a product of public education and growing up in a really small town, I understand that public education is the centerpiece of equity. It ensures that students, regardless of their race, their gender, their religion, their class, physical ability, there is no qualifier to enter into our public school system. And that ensures that everyone starts off life on the same foot with the same opportunities. And that not only is the essence of public school, but it is also the essence of what we identify as the American dream and the opportunity to seek a better life for ourselves. And so without that, we are denying generations of the opportunities to make our state better through entering into the community as well-rounded individuals when they graduate from a high school that has been well-funded. And so to me, public education is just the absolute core of our democracy, our civil life, our business community. It is what keeps our communities going.
Thank you. Sounds almost like what I put on job applications at times. It is the core of democracy. So tell me this, Texans for Public Education rates candidates as friendly, neutral, or unfriendly to public education. Now, that means something a little different to each person, but the final vote on that dictates who we give the block vote to. You are the block vote candidate for this district. Can you tell us, what does it mean to you to be a friendly candidate for public education?
To me, it means that it doesn't just get incorporated into the speeches I use to campaign. It's not just a pretty item on my website. It is actually how I intend to legislate. It is going to be a focus and a priority when I cast a vote on the House floor, when it comes time to create a budget. Anytime that public school is up for question, it needs to be approached with the utmost respect and with the intention of ensuring that our public schools are given the resources that they need at the state level, and that our teachers are being respected, that we're giving our retired teachers what they need. So in every way, to be friendly means to support public education personally, but also with my actions on the state floor as a state house representative.
What would you see as your top 2 or 3 issues in public education?
Yeah, so the top one to me, and I think that this is representative of also my other 2 issues, so that's why it's the core, is that there's too much power in the hands of politicians and not enough power in the hands of teachers, administrators, parents, and students. So then that leads into the next 2, which is how we got the A through F accountability system and the attack on our public school funding through bills like House Bill 21 and various bills which funnel our tax dollars into privately ran and owned public charter schools. So ensuring that we can remove that A through F accountability system, and that we have our funding going directly into the hands of public school administrators, and that they are able to use that money as they see fit at the local level. So ensuring that we're giving the power to those that are closest to their community, understand the problems that their students are facing most, and understand how they can address their own issues.
Julie, all politicians say that they love public education at election time. Teachers and the rest of the public ed community are tired of empty platitudes from politicians who only care about us when it's time for a vote. What concrete moves can you outline in your plans that are more than just campaign fluff?
Yeah. So yes, as we've seen with my opponent, he loves to talk about public schools when it's time to campaign, and he gets to the House floor and does everything he can to defund our public schools. So my intention is to increase school funding sustainably, so that it's not an issue every 2 years, but maybe every 10 years, so that we know that we have the funding we need and we're not going to have to fight tooth and nail to make sure that our most important institutions have what they need to succeed. It's absolutely ridiculous. So increasing school funding, and that's going to be a really, really big deal this year. As I'm sure you both know, we're heading into a legislative cycle that we're facing a $4.6 billion deficit. So we're going to have to find some ways, particularly through the $45 billion that we use in corporate welfare through our exemptions or tax exemptions. If we were to cut 1/9, just 1/9 of our $45 billion in tax exemptions, we could cover the entire deficit and find long-term sustainable funding for our public schools. But that has to be a priority for the legislators, and their values have to align with public schools, because you're going to see those values reflected in how they craft that budget. So doing that and then implementing more local control. And that includes removing the teach to the test model. It is a very controversial thing in Texas, but I believe through talking to hundreds of teachers throughout the state of Texas, that the teach to the test model legitimately damages not only our teachers, but our students and our student outcomes. And it is essentially setting up entire schools to fail, dependent upon a structure that politicians made. And ultimately, those decisions need to go to local schools. Teachers know what their students need, and they know best how to teach those subjects. If we removed the test model, it allows teachers the freedom and independence they need to address students one-on-one, meet them where they're at, because you're going to have in the same class an English language learning student, someone with dyslexia, and then somebody who's reading 2 or 3 grades ahead. And they need to be able to meet each of those students where they are so that they can pass that grade and go on and advance in a way that is equitable. And so the teach to the test model just hurts everyone involved. But I also want to make sure that we're protecting not only current teachers, but retired teachers. Every single legislative cycle, retired teachers come under attack. And you see that with their health care. And you see that with their retirement funds. So protecting programs for retired teacher also means increasing the frequency of our cost of living increases or adjustments, or COLAs, and working to reduce the cost of TRS care. So those would be my top 3 priorities: increasing school funding, implementing more local control, including removing the teach to the test model, and protecting programs for retired teachers.
And you said something that is absolutely true, and that is, after, for the first time in recent memory, the public education community rose up in the last election, and all of a sudden, everybody loves public education. We've all heard the sound bites before this flip, though, of comments like the school to prison pipeline, comments that public schools are broken. And I don't agree with that statement that public schools are broken. I will say that it's disingenuous to claim that there are no issues to be worked upon. Of course there are. And we look forward to sitting down with legislators to fix those issues. Yeah. My question for you, to steal the term away from those who are derogatory about public education, what's broken and how do you intend to fix it?
Sure. So the idea of brokenness comes from a system which has set our own schools up for failures. The recent move to A through F accountability rating for schools, which rates public schools with improvement required if they receive a D or an F, or it gives a school an A. Both of them are misleading and cannot be completely true. It is just more complex than that, and especially as each school faces their own issues, like varying degrees of poverty, varying degrees of involvement from parents, varying degrees of state funding. And then you have histories of schools where they've improved year over year, but they're still receiving that failing grade. And that just sets them further behind as the state has set up a model that decreases their funding even if they do better, but they don't just quite meet that A mark. So rather, instead of setting up a system that makes our schools into a broken system, we need to create a way that is measuring our school success on a very, very wide and one-on-one basis of measuring. So making sure that taxpayers, parents, and school districts have the ability to meet their students where they are, address those issues. So this should account for several factors such as literacy, numeracy development outside of the school, poverty levels, and so removing the A through F and making sure that the accountability is put on the schools themselves and not some marker that is very hard to understand. And then additionally, just making sure that the schools actually have the funding they need and that we're giving competitive teacher pay and administrative pay, because that's what's going to draw the best talent. When we have good talent, our schools will improve. When we have teachers that know that they're in a system that's going to reward them for staying in it, you're going to have teachers that become more skilled year over year, and that's going to only improve the outcomes of our students. So education should be approached with an ever-improving innovation, creativity, and starting first with discussing with administrators, teachers, and parents how the lawmakers can support the teachers and the schools and not how we can defund them or how we can make their lives much more harder from the state level.
I love that answer because I think teachers in general right now would agree that we're not feeling supported. So do you have any final thoughts you would like to present to our viewers on public education or any events that you'd like to plug that are coming up?
Sure. So a bit first, we have this would be a good opportunity if you're watching anywhere from the US races all the way down to the House races. We're doing a huge candidate forum in Canton tomorrow, which will be on Facebook Live, and I'll share some information on my Facebook. If you're not following, you can do so at Julie for Texas on Facebook. And yeah, so that's the biggest event coming up. We're also having a Get Out a Vote event on Monday, because if you guys can believe it, early voting starts in like 4 days, which is terrifying. So just I would encourage you each, to find where your candidates are and get plugged in with their campaigns. And that leads directly into my final thoughts. We have less than 3 weeks to save our democracy, to save our public schools, to make sure that our students and our families have what they need to go into the next decade prepared and taken care of by a state government that has for a long time not worked for working Texans. And the only way that we can change course is to elect people that care. That can't just be what they say at the election time. You have to feel it. You have to know that they're being sincere, and they have to show it with their actions. And when we elect people that are truly fighting for Texans, everyday working Texans, not corporate entities, not to cut a check for themselves, but really community members that are ingrained with what's going on in their own town, and they care about their neighbors. When we do that, we will see public education taken care of. We will see our healthcare system work. We will see that every single issue that we are facing at the state level is only an issue because we have people in there that do not make it a priority. They make themselves a priority or their donors a priority. That is not representative government. That's working for yourself. So I would encourage you to find a candidate that you think is working for you and your family, And you have to help them these next 3 weeks. They cannot do it alone. You have to step up to the plate, make phone calls, send text messages to your entire friends and family to make sure that they have a plan to vote, that they know where their polling place is, that they've got a mask and gloves and Germ-X, and they're ready to fight for our democracy and our students, our teachers, our administrators, our healthcare workers. All of our lives are on the line. That would be my final thought.
And I would tell our viewers that if any candidate has ever said anything I agree with more, I couldn't name it, because democracy works best when you participate, folks. No truer statement has ever been made. Regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, regardless of what you believe in, democracy works best when you participate. Hold your candidates responsible. Talk to them, whether it's by telephone, whether it's by Zoom meeting, whether it's over a cup of coffee. You need to have these conversations. The conversations we're having on these Zoom meetings can't be the end of it. It's up to you, the voter, not to us. So I encourage our viewers to get to know their candidates in their districts and to continue this. Julie, we thank you for joining us. Julie Gobble, ladies and gentlemen, for House District 6. We are recommending her for the block vote. Get out there and support her.
Julie, you are such an impressive candidate. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you both.
As promised, a little more about the block vote. If you've never heard about the block vote, you're not alone. It's a new process that we espouse here at Texans for Public Education. As a group, we analyze the records of candidates and incumbents alike in regards to public education. We then assign a rating of neutral, friendly, or unfriendly to each candidate, regardless of party. All 31,000 members have a vote in those ratings. Once the ratings are set, we use them to unify our vote into one large block of votes. We do this only with state offices. Members are free to vote as they wish for any other office. We do not tell people how to vote. Instead, we come together and make the decision as a group. If you would like to know more about how the process works, please visit our website at texansforpubliceducation.com. We hope to see you on the next episode of On the Educational Record. Bye-bye.